There we go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go sneak over to the agenda really quick. I'll run down what we'll be talking about today. Then I'm going to pass it over to Cheryl and let her answer your questions. And we'll go from there. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. So it's great to be back, and I'm here just for the next half hour or so, because I know you have a full agenda, to answer any questions that people might have related to the two symposia that I presented in February and March. February was integrative treatment of complex trauma for children and families. And then in March, we talked about the adolescent version of the same model for ITCT. So for those of you who may not know, I'm from the University of Southern California, Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, and I'm the center director for USC ATTC, which stands for Adolescent Trauma Training Center. And so we conduct trainings throughout the country, and along the way, because our agency is also an affiliate agency or organization with the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, and I have a long history of being funded and then not being funded, and all the vagaries of grants with the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, which also, by the way, funded the work that we did in Long Beach to create ITCT as an evidence-based treatment model for complex trauma. Anyway, my continuing relationship with NCTSN means that I know a lot of colleagues across the country who present on various topics that you might be interested in. So that's one resource to think about. During the trainings, I also mentioned a number of materials and resources that are available at our website. So we have a number of guides there: mindfulness guide, implementation guide, self-injury guide, substance use and abuse, and primary ITCTA guide. And then ITCTC is based on a book that was published by Sage in 2016. So that's kind of the background, or a little refresher for those of you who were at the symposium. If you weren't, I'd encourage you to check out those resources. As Dawn mentioned, every month, I believe the third Wednesday of the month, we sponsor an hour plus half-hour discussion presentation by various folks across the country. The one this week was on anti-racism and trauma, and presented by a psychologist that we have on staff at USC. Next month, I'm going to be doing an ITCTC sort of refresher, intro, whatever, overview for folks. And then June, I think we're taking the month off, and we're lining up for July another speaker. And in August, we're going to have Dr. Cassandra Cassile from Northwestern University. She's also part of NCTSN, a psychologist working with transition age youth. So you all, if you attended the symposium, you would then be included on our listserv. If you did not attend the symposium and you would like to be on the listserv, or somehow you're not included, contact Dawn. She takes care of all of that, coordination and collaboration between our centers. So we just want you to be aware of the resources that are out there. And then today we have a few minutes, if you have any questions specific to ITCTC or any implementation questions, or wondering about maybe further trainings, we can talk about all of those things. So great to be here. And I know on these Zoom calls, since I'm not in the same room with you, so I can't, call upon you. I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And people tend to be more shy with Zoom, but, feel free. This is your chance.
You, Cheryl. Okay, this is our opportunity. If there aren't any questions, we're going to go ahead and move on. I want to thank Cheryl again for taking the time to present both ACTC A and C and coming back to answer any questions, bring us updates, and again, bringing us the resource of being able to attend those trainings through the Brown Bag program, which many of those provide continuing education credits for free, which is always a fabulous resource. Thank you, Cheryl, again, for taking the time. You and I will touch base later, but thank you again. You were fantastic and a great way to kick off our symposium series. Thank you.
Thank you. And any further questions, you can always contact me directly, lanktree@usc.edu. Also at our website, there's information if you would like to attend more trainings and eventually become certified with ITCTA. That information is also available at the website. So take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Cheryl did a fantastic job. I'm actually really excited about the next few that we have coming up. We're going to mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and drop the agenda. I'm going to try to drop the agenda in the chat for you guys. There we go. Meeting agenda. Bring you guys up. Here's our chat. Go. Sorry about that. It did not want to exit the. There we go. And it is up. Next on our agenda, we will be, I'm going to introduce Melissa. Well, I'm kind of blessed this morning. We have Melissa and Nicole. I asked Melissa to join us and present everybody with an update from OES regarding the ChAT grant. So who will we have the pleasure of speaking with today? Is it Melissa or Nicole?
It'll be Melissa.
Fantastic. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Melissa Goen. I'm a program specialist in the Children's Unit at Cal OES. I'm very excited to be joining you all and sharing a few updates just related to your AT Grant SEP Awards. So just to get us started, I know that you're in about a quarter of the way through your Grant SEP Award right now, and we just want to provide a reminder about your fund sources. So if your AT22 Grant SEP Award carries 19 VOCA, that needs to be expended in all categories before July 31st due to that fund source expiring. So the last day for you to submit a 201 claiming 19 VOCA would be by August 31st. And I know a lot of you have done a fantastic job of spending that down right away. So again, just a gentle reminder to please prioritize that spend down, followed by 20 VOCA and then 22. Our best practice is spending down your fund sources from oldest to newest. And a lot of you have done a great job of doing that so far. So thank you so much for doing that and continuing to send your 201s on time. Next, we have the AT23 RFA, which is on the horizons. It's currently still at Cal OES, but we'll be releasing it very soon. And once that becomes available, you'll hear from your program specialists about what's in the RFA and the timeline to apply, you'll have 8 weeks. And we anticipate that that'll be released in the next month or two. So please be on the lookout for that. And finally, you all submitted your PMT reports last week, and CalOES is reviewing those diligently this week. So if there's any corrections that need to be made, please be on the lookout for any communication from your program specialist today, as that's a deliverable that we have due to OVC. So please be on the lookout for any communication if you haven't heard so already. And if not, thank you so much for doing your part and sharing your data so that we're able to review it thoroughly and complete the reporting requirements on our end. I know that I covered that pretty quickly, but is there anything that either Nicole or myself can speak to just related to any of those topics?
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa, for the update. That is incredibly helpful. And again, I guess keep a lookout. You'll be hearing from your OES specialist. And we will go ahead and move on to our next agenda item. We have a discussion question today that came up during our one-on-ones when I called the different organizations. I found that one of the biggest struggles that all of our organizations were having was with staffing, that they lost a lot of staff either to online therapy or just movement or burnout after the pandemic. And they're struggling to have staff members to even provide the services in order to spend down the grant. And some have come up with some creative ideas. And I wanted to open up the floor and see who's struggling, what's working, what isn't working. We want to save time for others who, if they haven't tried that opportunity yet. But would anybody like to speak about what is working? Can I see a show of hands of organizations on the call today? Is who's having trouble with staffing? Okay, so you guys are all, oh, okay. Okay, so we have several of your peers here that they've seemed to figure something out. So can I ask Steve, what is your organization doing?
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. Yeah, currently, and very fortunately, I'm almost afraid to say it, we are fully staffed and have been for a while. So I think a piece of it, is the community we work with. We serve primarily the LGBTQ community. And so I think with that, we have folks that are specifically interested in working with the LGBTQ community. So I think having that focus of our population helps. In addition, I think in terms of our salary bands, we reviewed them last year and realized, for San Diego, we were falling behind, particularly with our salaries for licensed folks and licensed bilingual folks. And so, as an agency, we did that compensation analysis and actually were able to reset the salaries of both our licensed non-bilingual staff and our licensed bilingual staff. And I think that went a long way and around retention and, our licensed staff, feeling supported, by the agency. Let's see, I think, I know with our people and culture department, which is the equivalent of our human resources department, we advertise positions just in general on some of the more, popular platforms like Indeed, but we also have the commitment if we have a position that's difficult to fill, to be able to use some of the paid platforms, specific to a position, maybe that has, specific qualifications like a clinical position. And so we're fortunate, like if I had to post a position and I knew it was going to be challenging to fill, like say a bilingual English Spanish therapist position, I can work with our PNC team to identify, a couple of paid sites that we would use to really promote and recruit for that position. I think we probably all do this too. We do a lot of like word of mouth recruiting. So, I usually share a post, a job posting with my clinical team, and ask them to reach out to their social and professional networks to be able to share the posting. And so with that, you've got the sort of the broad the broad net of using like Indeed, but we also try to do some very specific recruiting through some of our professional organizations and our local universities as well, in getting the word out. So I'll stop there. I probably have a few more I can think of, but I think those are some of the strategies that we've used. And also glad, I'll pause, but also glad to talk about some of our other retention efforts, because I've definitely dealt with, staff who have felt burnt out and, sort of are teetering on whether to stay or, whether to go. And I've had staff do both, some who just needed to go and wanted to go for their own health and well-being, and then folks who I really try to work and support so that they could stay and continue to be like present and focused and doing the work while taking care of themselves.
Fantastic. Can I ask you to send me offline some of those networks that you use so that I can include that in our newsletter this month for some of the other organizations?
Sure. Yep.
That would be fantastic. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. I heard LinkedIn has some capability for finding professionals that a few of the organizations has had some luck with. Do any of you use LinkedIn? Or does everybody primarily do, I think Indeed, is like where everybody kind of goes to universally. Okay. So I will get those. Anybody want to speak to, let's see. Okay, so Chelsea, it looks like you guys have been struggling a little bit.
Hello, yes. We've had a lot of trouble both with recruitment and retention. So Steve, if you are willing to share some strategies on the retention side, I'd definitely be interested in hearing that. This is our third year with the grant, and we have been fully staffed for a total of 5 weeks, not consecutively. So we've hired, I think, 5 clinicians. Some of them never even started. Some of them lasted a couple of weeks. My longest lasted 1.5 years and then burned out and left. And she had already taken a leave of absence in the middle of that 1.5 years. So retention is really difficult. To be frank, we're competing with Kaiser a lot because they started hiring associates. So we're losing folks right and left. So yeah, any tips on retention would really be very useful.
Steve, did you want to, would you mind sharing a few of your retention?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Chelsea, maybe you're doing this already. We've, I think, been really flexible with our time off policy. Where in the past, we've required folks to submit like time off, like vacation time, at least 30 days in advance. I think, I've been a lot more flexible around that, with staff, just with the caveat that we meet and just talk about a plan of coverage in their absence. And so just trying to be flexible that way and meet folks where they're at. we've also, as an agency, culturally just really communicated that taking mental health days is another way to use our sick time, and really acknowledging that, and not having staff like jump through hoops in order to be able to take like a day off. And so I've been really supportive with that as well. I'm currently working with a staff member who, we had a conversation last week. She was like, if you talked to me on Monday, I probably would have resigned, but here it is Wednesday. I'm in a bit of a different space, but realize I need to take a break, and just kind of focus on my own, self-care and well-being. So we kind of talked about, how to work with your primary care, provider, and, to request a leave of absence. We in that conversation, we talked about a coverage plan, with some staff in particular, they're struggling with this piece because they don't want to leave their clients, with any kind of gap in service, and yet, they're suffering as well with their own self-care. Particularly for our agency, for our Black or African American staff, we created, especially with some of the social justice related pandemic, we created a space for our Black staff, to be able to get together and connect, socially, and get support. So that was something we are very intentional about. Let's see, I'll think on some more things that we did, but those are some, that come to mind.
Now, those who lost staff, I guess my question is it one was pay? Because from what I'm understanding, the online service providers are paying a higher rate than local organizations necessarily can. But also, you all work with children. The AT grant is to provide services for children, and there are some definite difficulties with providing services online. So many of the staff members left to go be able to work from home and no longer wished to be coming into the office. Has that been the case for many of you guys? I'm just like, think on that for a minute. I see here.
Sorry, Dawn.
Yeah.
Not so much for us. We're doing a hybrid. It's, to be honest, it's mostly salary bands and caseloads and burnout.
Okay. What's the average caseload for everybody? I'll go around. I'll start. Teresina, what is the average caseload for a clinician?
I'm the only clinician, and so it's just me, which is anyway, I carry about 20-15, give or take.
Okay. What's the average at your organization, Steve?
Yeah, so we do like a 3-to-1 ratio. It's 3 clinical hours for an hour of admin. Like, folks wanted to know, as I hire folks, they just want to know like how to like structure their time. So we do a 3-to-1 ratio, and it averages about, 21 is like a full caseload.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll say, that though, myself and our clinical supervisor are super flexible, because as we all know, 2 or 3 high acuity cases can feel like 5 to 8. And so we have pretty open communication with our team. So if they have some real high acuity cases, when they have openings, we don't like rush to fill their openings. We kind of work with them, and just have that ongoing communication. So when the acuity decreases, then we can work with them back up to 21. So we try to be flexible that way. And I think our folks appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to, similar to what Steve is saying, it depends on, definitely the intensity. Sometimes I have months or so where I only have 10 because some of them are so intense. And again, it's just me. So
Wow. Elaine, now you have a larger organization, correct?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm in LA County. Our mental health department is part of a larger organization. And we are contracted, mostly our department's contracted through LA County Department of Mental Health. So our ChAT clinicians are part of that team. And some of them are actually split 50-50, which is a nightmare for financial, getting it all, but it also helps kind of balance, like filling, the need for ChAT. But we have people roughly at 17. It went up recently because we're getting pushed back because caseloads are generally really high and our waiting list is very long. And so we try to work with our clinicians, and help them understand, what the changes are in the county, what, the struggles are, and help them have a say in there. Like Steve, everything you said, Steve, very similar for us. And I think having conversations before assigning, so people have some sort of agency in their job. And I also really think the supervision is really an important piece of retention. But yeah, we're at 17 right now. It might go up later.
Fantastic. Sydney, how about your organization? Could you share who you're with?
Yeah, so hi all. I'm actually here today on behalf of my supervisor, Jennifer Nielsen, who you might know. She couldn't be here, but I'm just taking notes. So I won't know the answers to a lot of these questions. I'm primarily here to listen, but I know that the other two therapists on our team have 15 around there. I'm an intern, so I have about half that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us. She shared you would be with us today, so
Thank you for having me.
Irene?
Yeah, so I think I work with the YMCA. Our AT grant is pretty small. So we have like 1.5 therapists. And I think the issue that we have isn't retention. I think that we like Elaine, I think mentioned, is that we have really great clinical supervisors. So once folks are in, we find that they're staying. But we just don't have good starting pay. So I think people just see that from the jump and are like, no, thanks, this other place is paying more. And so, and then our program, we do travel. And so we meet people at home, at their homes, at our sites, virtual. And so when I'm interviewing people, I can feel kind of like the recoil for that, like being able to having to use your car to go out and do things versus like our school-based counseling programs, like they get a lot more bites for applications, I think, because they're settled into one space. And when you hear school-based, you can kind of wrap your head around what that's going to look like. So I think that that's what we're facing. So like, we already know what we need to do, but it's kind of like, how do we challenge the powers that be that pay needs to be higher? And it's an adjustment that was made last year, but I think we need to continue to make larger adjustments.
Fantastic, thank you. Amber, how's your organization doing? And could you share who you're with for everyone?
Yeah, and sorry if there's disruptions. I don't have childcare on Fridays and I have a toddler here. So I'm the clinical director at Lumina Alliance. We serve intimate partner violence and sexual assault survivors in San Luis Obispo County. And our caseload expectations have been forever like 60% of your hours, but right now I have 1 out of 17 clinicians that's meeting that. So we're trying to adjust it down, but it's been a struggle. My biggest issue is retention. We pay pretty well for trainee therapists compared to others in our county. So we get people in, but keeping anyone it's at this point becoming almost impossible. We have lots of great benefits. We are like, you need a mental health day, take it. We try and be as supportive as possible. But other agencies in our county are paying $6 to $10 more an hour for an associate or a licensed therapist.
Wow.
And that's after we just did a pretty significant pay increase last year. So I can't compete with that at all.
Wow. I am going to go ahead and skip. I probably should have introduced them. Sadie does my technical for all of our Zoom meetings. Say hi, Sadie. Jordan does all of our marketing. He helps with the newsletter. And so they were both on to hear a little bit about all of the members and to have a better idea of how we can help support you guys. So then I'm going to go ahead and skip over to Victoria. I don't think we've heard from you yet, correct? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Victoria Gursky. I'm Clinical Services Manager for Interface Children and Family Services in Ventura County. So I'm filling in for Joelle Vessels, who's the director. I'm sure you know her. So I think everything that you all are saying is exactly what we're experiencing. We also had a rate increase last year, and we are currently getting some applicants as graduate students are moving through, and it's graduate time. And so, but we are hearing about rate of pay, and we also work throughout the county. So a lot of interest in hybrid model or continuing to do telehealth, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just kind of seems to be the culture that's what people are kind of thinking that they're most comfortable with. Retention is also a challenge for us. Let's see, caseloads are usually, well, we try 20 to 25 is really what we are having our staff be open for. But the agency provides great supervision and lots of training. And I think we get, we're sort of a trainee site. So we get new graduates, trainees, and then they collect all their hours, and then they get licensed, and then they move on. So, that's kind of the nature of what we have going on here.
Thank you so much for sharing. Selena, have we heard from you this morning?
No, hi, I'm driving, so sorry. I just pulled over. I'm with Empower YOLO, so we're a sexual assault, domestic violence center, and we do obviously have the ChAT program, and our grant is also supports our child advocate at our safe house too, so it's not 100% clinical. And we at one point had a full-time ChAT advocate, but that was actually really difficult for that person, as well as with the wait list. So all of our staff have some ChAT funding, and their caseloads seem to be closer to the 17 to 20 mark. I'm not a clinical person. I'm not the clinical supervisor. That was actually a position that was really hard for us to find. We obviously contract for supervision, but an actual paid on-site clinical director of clinical programs, that did take us some time to find. And I think that does help. We luckily just have that person now. So I think that does help to offer support to the clinicians. And our pay does not seem to be competitive enough with any of the other partner agencies. We have a federally qualified healthcare center that they have a ginormous therapy department, and they pay a lot more. One thing I think that might help a little bit with us is our clinicians have opted to do 410s. So they do like that extra day off. We had to do a vote and things like that, but they do often speak of, I'm always going to want 3 days off. So that does seem to help them a little bit. And they do, I think kind of what I'm hearing resonates. They do tend to take a lot of days off, but maybe that's more of kind of a self-care, approach. And so it sounds like that might be common within the clinicians. And so sometimes that's a little challenging when they only work 4 days. So then that 1 day off is sometimes many clients that they have to reschedule. We have worked on in pay incentive for our therapists as they have completed their hours and then become licensed. Usually they do leave us, but we've built in some incentive pay to try to retain them. So far it's working with one of them. So yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to give Chelsea an opportunity. Was there anything else that you wanted to share? I know you and Steve had a really great interaction, but
No, it's really good to hear, what other people's agencies look like. And Elaine, it sounds like you and I are kind of in a similar boat where our clinicians work both under ChAT and then also have DMH Medi-Cal clients. And so it sounds like our caseloads are between like 22 and 25, and there's a 60% productivity requirement. And I think that contributes to burnout pretty significantly. And unfortunately, my hands are tied on any ways to address that. But I appreciate all the other suggestions, and we'll definitely be considering them. So thank you, everyone.
fantastic. I want to thank everybody for sharing today. This is a really important topic because without staff, we can't support the children. And so I wanted to make sure this was the first thing we addressed in our Let's Chat. I will go ahead and gather the information, and if you all have a particular recruitment source that you use, if you want to email that to me, I will include everybody's in the April's newsletter that will go out next week. Let's see. I wanted to speak a little bit about what we have coming up. We have a tentative speaker. I still need to bring approval to the advisory board on male survivor trauma and in the Latino culture. I'm very excited about this speaker. They come from Dr. Deborah Warner's organization. She's the top forensic psychologist dealing with male survivor trauma. I felt like I was asked for a little bit more diversity. Dr. Crystal Flores will be the one doing our presentation because she speaks specifically to the Latino culture. Living in California, I know that is more than 50% of our population, also a large percentage of our caseloads. So I'm very excited about them. But again, I'll be bringing this idea before the advisory board before anything is concrete. I also heard what you guys said about wanting alternative therapies for nonverbal children. So I am working with a referral actually from Bruce Perry, because I know everybody said if they could hear from anybody, it would be Bruce Perry. Unfortunately, he's a little too busy for us, but he brought us Robin, who he highly recommends, and she does sensory motor arousal regulation treatments. So movement therapy, which is an excellent evidence-based therapy for nonverbal children, also for children who are on the spectrum or have developmental disabilities. So very excited. That one would come in the fall. I am working on June. So remember, we're doing the 4-pack of symposiums. So I'm still working on that one. Again, this is all this all depends on whether or not the advisory board approves, but this is what I'm working towards. Is there any questions about or anything, other issues anybody would like to address today? Okay. I want to thank everybody again for coming today to this Let's Chat.
Actually, I'm sorry. I do have a question.
Yeah.
I would be curious to know how you all handle court requests. We sometimes have gotten requests for family court to either testify, or one of our previous ChAT advocates, when she was full-time, she was asked by the courts often to do reunification therapy. And because that's a very expensive style of therapy. And, you know, that's something with typically with an abusive parent, reunifying them back together. And I'm not even sure. I mean, I know VOCA doesn't allow you to work with, you know, those who've caused harm typically. So I think we kind of just said we really can't do that, but I'm curious if that's still kind of correct and if folks have had that. So also just handling requests to testify in court on behalf of kids. Like we've had some clients who specifically have come to us to say, meet with my kid, but also I'm going to need you to testify as to why they can't go to this other parent. And I'm curious if you guys have had that experience or have policies around that. Thank you.
I can say that our only policy regarding that is we will assert privilege until we get subpoenaed. And even then we will still continue to assert privilege because DCFS is often trying to reunify folks. And that's not always an agreeable thing. So I've only been subpoenaed once. My first call was to CAMP and their legal support. And then luckily it didn't go anywhere. But yeah, and you know, as far as like reunification therapies, things like that, I just tell them that's not a service that I offer or that we offer here. And you know, refer them to maybe other folks that do.
I do want to provide some clarification with regard to involving the offender in therapy. That is actually something that is allowed. Now that therapy is not to address the offender's issues, but it is to help with the child's recovery. I think many years ago, the program had specified that they could include a caregiver as long as they were not the offender. But that was lifted a long time ago. And we do know that in some cases it is necessary to involve the offending caregiver, parent, family member in that therapy. But again, it's to address the child's recovery. We know that a lot of times the offender also has issues that need to be addressed through therapy, but they need to be referred somewhere else to address their trauma. But they can certainly be included in those therapy sessions to help with the child's recovery. So hopefully that helps. You know, when you are in a situation where either you think it would be beneficial or you're being asked to do that. I think, and Melissa, you will probably remember, but I think that last year, and I don't know if it was Lucky's presentation, but there had been a presentation that had spoken about sometimes the need to include an offending caregiver, parent, family member, and ways to engage them in that process. But I can't remember exactly who that was or how long ago it was.
Yeah, you're correct. It was Lucky, and they came with a wealth of experience just from working in San Diego Child Welfare Department. So
thank you.
It's a good presentation for those that were able to attend. And if not, I believe it's on the YouTube channel.
Yes, it is. I can actually put the link in the chat. Let me go ahead and do that. So does any of the other organizations have policies around subpoenas or have any experience they can share with Selena?
Hi, Selena. Yeah, similar to what Teresina was saying, I think we try to hold, we toe the line of like what, legal, ethical responsibility. And I think it, kind of boils down to clinical judgment. Like, if does the treating clinician think it would be beneficial to include a parent, and then I think, and we've had this before, I've dealt with this once before, the reunification therapy specifically. I think how we handled it was clarifying that we are not quote unquote reunification therapists, but we are providing treatment, and this is what treatment looks like, and it's not for the purpose of proving or ensuring that there's a reunification plan. And in that case, the court ended up assigning a private person. So the poor child had his therapy, and then they met with a reunification therapist because it was I believe it was a condition of, the next steps in family court. So we just kind of, and with supervision and consultation and everything, like whoever you consult with, like Teresina, you mentioned CAMFT, just really exploring what our obligation is legally and ethically, and then being clear about what our limits are, or what we provide, and that it's not for the purpose of sometimes what courts ask for. Sometimes it might be, but I know that that's a tricky situation, so I can definitely relate.
Thank you, Elaine. And that's one of the things that this Let's Chat is meant for, is so that fellow chat recipients can ask questions of one another, assist one another. Again, I want to really thank you guys for participating today and engaging in the conversation. I am thinking that next time we will definitely not do it on a Friday so that more people can attend. I think that beautiful weather outside is calling everyone a little bit. I know we lost a few to the beach because they emailed me. So I will definitely move it back towards the middle of the week to help with everybody's schedules. I know Wednesdays and Thursdays tend to be better days for most organizations. So I'm going to lean into that moving forward. Is there anyone else with a topic that they'd like to bring up? Okay, well, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Dawn. I just have a couple random thoughts. When we talked about LinkedIn as a place, a website for recruiting, I know actually our P&C director was talking yesterday about some of our agencies' hard to fill positions, and specifically, I guess, searching for those folks who on their LinkedIn profile said they're open to opportunities. And so, definitely searching by qualifications, and that is a function of LinkedIn. You can say, I'm open to exploring new employment opportunities. So he was saying that that's part of our strategy for those difficult positions. And then I shared in the chat that we moved from 60% productivity to 50%. And how we did that was, I just wanted to share in terms of like process, was that in the county of San Diego, for county funded programs, the productivity standard was 50%. So the argument I made internally to our chief operating officer, who's my supervisor, and our chief executive officer, our CEO, was that 50% was what the argument we were making is that we were aligning our productivity standard to the productivity standards of most organizations that are county funded in San Diego. So that was really my approach for getting buy-in from our COO and our CEO, was trying to make it that would put us on par with the majority of organizations in San Diego. And then I redid our productivity standards really to reflect what is commonly accepted productivity standards for that 50% benchmark. And so that was the two-prong approach I took in really advocating for that change internally, because I think it was, Selena, you brought this up. I guess the third argument I made is like, nobody is achieving 60% productivity. Like I had an example of one staff like 2 years prior who was able to achieve 60%. And I'm like, if it's, you know, if it's not a benchmark that folks can reach, it is demoralizing, you know, to hold folks, you know, to a standard that, you know, in 3 years, we've only had one staff person actually achieve, you know, for any period of time. And so I also made the argument around retention as well, like kind of that fairness and retention. So I just wanted to share that because we were able to get ours reset to 50%.
Thank you so much. Okay. Anybody else? Well, I think I'm going to give you guys back 7 minutes of your day. I don't know what you're going to do with it. Hope it's something spectacular outside, enjoying the sunshine. I think that's where I'm heading as soon as we're done here. Again, I appreciate you all coming. I hope to see you at our symposium in May. I will have more information available next week. So again, thank you so much for coming. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.